Alright, y'all. Got something special for y'all today. Today we're rolling up at Grammy's house. We're gonna do some canning. We're gonna can some green beans today. We're gonna let her show you how she does that. You know, it's that time of year again, harvesting and planting and growing and eating good garden food. There's the garden over yonder. But let's go inside and see what she's doing. Y'all wanna go inside? Knock knock. Woman. Uh-oh, looks like she's already in the kitchen doing something. Yeah, boy, she's already in the kitchen. Okay, what we doing, Mama?
We are going to learn how to can green beans fresh from the garden today. This is yesterday's products, all done. You see the rings are gone, the tops are down. So when you push on your top like that and it don't pop, then your top is good. So these are good. I'm storing them on the shelf. We're getting ready to make some more.
Alright, y'all, stay tuned. We're gonna get all this ready. Show y'all how Grammy cans some green beans. Alright, y'all.
Okay, so far we've done the prep work. We've set up everything that we need to get ready to start canning our green beans. Over here in this sink, we have our jars that we're going to put our vegetables in, sitting in hot water. So you need to heat up your jars and your lids. They stay in hot water. Here's our fresh picked green beans, straight out of the ground. They've already been washed. They were sitting in the refrigerator, so we're just going to pop them the way we want them. Here's our prep station. Please apologize for my measuring cup, but I discovered that it worked. The large Tervis cup was perfect for 2 jars of green beans. So we have our pot to boil our green beans in, and this is our canning pot. In our canning pot, we have 3 quarts of hot water. We've turned it on high. We want it to start warming up. Nothing goes in there but water. Okay, in our cooking pot, we're going to add a little salt. Now, normally if I was cooking these green beans to serve for dinner, I would add a lot of salt because it just does something to the flavor. But for the canning process, we're going to use just enough. There's no measurement, and I apologize for that. Dissolve that in the hot water. Go ahead and turn your burner on high. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to start snapping beans. Now, when you're snapping your beans, fresh picked, they have a tail on them. This is where I pulled it off the vine. They've all got a tail. So you snap your tail off, break your pieces about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Fill up your cup. I do that fairly quick because that water is going to boil in just a minute. We're going to fill this cup up to just overflowing. You kind of want to inspect your beans as you're going, because every now and then you're going to get a bean that has something on it. For example, you don't necessarily want to cook that and serve it to whoever is, so let's pop that off, throw it over there. Now, what you can do with that piece that I just popped off and throw it over there, it might have a seed in it. So don't trash your trash yet, because you can, if you've got a good seed in there that's not damaged by whatever damaged your bean, you can harvest your seeds and you would have seeds available to plant for next year. Sometimes when you're harvesting, you're going to get a bean that looks like he's kind of a little bit on the light colored side, and see he's got damage almost all the way down. So we're not going to pop him into the dinner at all. We're going to put him aside, and we're probably going to harvest seeds out of him. My water's getting hot already. The water in our canning pot is just warming up. We don't want it to come to a boil. It's 3 quarts of hot water in there. It's not going to boil anytime soon, so we're not really worried about it. When I was messing with it last night, I discovered the Turbis cup makes 2 jars. The canner will hold
I think that one's an Arctic.
6 to 8. This is an Arctic. This is an Arctic. So we're going to do 3 sets of each of these because the canner will hold. When I did them last night, I did 6 jars in there and it was perfect. You don't want to make them too small, but you don't want them really big either. They don't fit in the jars well if they're too big. There's your seed popping out, in case you're wondering where they come from or how to find it. And you can actually see where the bump is right here. So that would actually be a good looking seed, but we're going to eat that baby. One just fell in there. You can see it takes quite a few beans to fill up the cup. And the jars that I'm using, I believe, are half pints. Or pints. What are they, Dave, on that box?
That's a pint.
That's a pint, right?
Yeah, it's a pint jar.
So I'm using pint jars, and from the looks of the volume that I'm getting in each pint jar, now my husband and I live by ourselves, it's just the 2 of us. Each pint jar should make 1 meal for just the 2 of us.
Especially since Daddy loves green beans.
Ooh, that man can eat some green beans. Now when I cook these fresh out of the garden, oh my goodness. So this, I can't wait to see what these are going to taste like.
Speaking of Daddy.
Hey.
Every once in a while you run into a string. When you're popping, if you get that string, just go ahead and peel it off. It has no function, no worries. What's this? Popped my bottom off and look at there. There's a seed. Just because of the way the bottom popped, the seed popped out. I probably should have busted that one again. Sometimes if you leave your beans on the vine a little bit too long, they get big and your seeds will get mature. And that's what you want to do if you're intentionally trying to make seed. Leave your beans on your plants a little bit longer and they'll get big and bumpy and you'll get nice mature looking seeds. Okay, so this guy's going to be, he's split. See what he did? So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at that now.
Mm-hmm.
That's some good looking seed right there. So we're going to throw him over there in the seed pile. Since he wanted to split, we won't cook him. So I picked these beans earlier this week, and I cleaned them, and they've been in the refrigerator waiting for me to come and play. And as you can tell, they're still good and fresh. They're snapping, a good snapping sound. You know, they're not rubbery. It's a good, hello dryer.
Dave.
So we've still got a good fresh bean, even though they've been in the refrigerator a few days. That's the other thing you want to do. If you can't get to them right away, refrigerate them. Wash them and refrigerate them. If you leave them sitting out on the counter, they're going to lose color. They're going to lose freshness. They won't be a good snapping like that. And you'll lose a lot of your vitamin. Okay, so we have what I call just to overflowing. Okay, so we're going to take this and we're going to dump it in this salted water that we just had over here. And we're going to boil them roughly 5 minutes-ish. So we'll use our little spoon to push them down in the water good. All right. Now while those guys are boiling, I'm going to snap the next batch because it will catch up to me real quick. Because they only got to boil for 5 minutes. I almost threw that seed away.
Action. Oh.
Alrighty, our beans have been boiling over here in this little salt water about 5 minutes or so. Look at how pretty green they are. Man, that's pretty. So now we got to get them out of the water. We come back over here to our hot water bottles. And the reason we heat our bottles is because you don't want to take a cold glass bottle and put boiling food in it. You will break your bottle. This is a special funnel used for canning. Notice how wide the mouth is. Big mouth. Fits right down over our bottles. Okay? So we'll just scoop our green beans out and throw them in. That funnel has made it so nice. I tried it without the funnel and every other bean landed on the counter. You shake them up a little bit. They're not too hot to handle, so you got a little, there we go. You want your product, your food product, to come pretty close to the top of your jar. I discovered last night that if I didn't do this, that I had a whole lot of airspace in my jar. You don't want a lot of airspace when you're canning. The more air you have in your can or jar, the more you got to get out of the jar to make the vacuum to seal it. If you don't have a good vacuum, then you have the run the potential of getting bacteria, viruses, and all other kind of scuzzy stuff in your food.
E. coli.
Exactly, that you can't eat. Or should I say that you shouldn't eat?
Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake your jars right.
That's right, and you can see that jar looks nicely packed, pretty much all the way around. We've got a few little leftovers in our little bowl here. Let's see if they'll fit in somewhere.
That's that accurate measuring with that
Yep.
Arctic cup.
Yeah, man. Now, if you was to eat one of these right now, it would probably taste what you would call al dente. Be a little bit of a crunch, but not intolerable. Now, all your jars also have to have what they call head space. You have to have a little, not this head, that head, a little bit of head space in your jars to allow for expansion of your food when you're cooking. Okay, so we take the water that we boiled our beans in and we're going to pour it in the jars with them. Because again, you can't have a lot of air in there, so whoop, that might be a little bit too much, we'll see. Pour your water, the same water that you cooked them in, because all the vitamins and things that potentially were in there are in your water. All right, so we've got maybe a wee bit too much water in this one. You want about a ½ an inch to an inch of what they call head space in the top of your jar.
Who was they?
Ball Canning. There we go. That looks about right. Okay, so we got good green beans in there. We got our water to the right level. So those two guys are ready to go. Our water is warm over here, David. If you want to look at that, you'll see that that's smoking without boiling. So we want, now your lid is actually two parts to your lid. This is your lid. This is a band, okay? The only purpose of your band is to hold your lid on. Put your lid on, screw down your band. You don't want to screw that so tight that you need Arnold Schwarzenegger to get it off. Put on your lid, put on your band. Now, that's a little warm. So this little doodad, because those are a little warm, this is a jar picker-upper.
Picker-upper thingy?
Picker-upper thingy. You hold the blacks, green to green, or green to food. So it will literally grab your jar and you can pick it up and not burn yourself and put it in your canner.
Your pressure cooker.
Pressure canner. We're canning. So this is a pressure canning. We are pressure canning. Now when you put them in here, do not let your jars touch, because the action of the boiling will cause them to vibrate and you will break them. So you cannot let your jars touch themselves or the edge of your pan. All right, round two. So, repeat. Notice we've done our pre-measurement for our second round.
Our exact Arctic cut measurement.
That's right. Fresh water. And back on the stove. Turn it on high. Add a little salt. Cures what ails you. That exact measurement again. You know, the mommy finger about 12 times.
Rinse and repeat.
That's right.
Alright, so we'll be back, or we're going to keep recording?
We'll be back. We're going to wait for that to come to a boil. Cool beans. Alright, so we've got all of them boiled up. The last ones are now going in the pot. Now, there are two different methods of packing. There's a hot pack and a cold pack. Hot packing is what we've been doing by pre-boiling our beans with a little salt. You can add a little bit of seasoning, not a whole lot. Cold packing is when you just take the raw green bean and just put it in the jar, put boiling water on top of it, and then put it down in here. You still have to have boiling water in your beans and put down in here. Hot jars, hot water, down in your hot canner. Okay, so all of our jars are down in there. Nobody's touching each other. We've got plenty of room in between all of our little jars. Now you take your lid, okay, so this is our pressure regulator. It has extra pieces. However many pieces you have on there is the pressure. So this is 15 pounds of pressure, 10 pounds of pressure, 5 pounds of pressure. Now, the books recommend 10 pounds of pressure for your green beans, so we'll put that ring back on. We have 10 pounds of pressure. Okay, and that goes back in there. Now, put your lid on. Your lid has arrows on it. Arrows that line up with your pan. This is your pop-top release. This is your pressure regulator valve. Okay, so we're going to put our lid on now. And I don't know if you can see down piece and a down piece and a space. So we'll line up our little down pieces till the little lid falls on there. All right, Mom, let's go. There we go. Now, to close it, you turn it. You can actually feel resistance as it's closing until your handles meet. Now, the next step, we have to wait for this to boil and steam will start to come out your pressure relief valve there. You can see stuff starting to pop a little bit, but we want a continuous flow of steam out of that hole before we do the next step. Talk a little bit about storing your beans. When you finish your canning and you want to store your foods, you have to take your bands off. If you leave your bands on, they are a way for bacteria and contaminants to get under your seals, will break your seal, and your food will get contaminated. It's not edible.
What is this, Mommy?
This is blueberry jam that we made from our blueberries in our backyard.
Oh, Mommy.
And green beans is what we've done so far. Thank you. Be back in a few minutes when the next step's ready. All right, so we were waiting on our pressure regulator. So to make pressure, you have to heat all your contents. On our vent, steam vent right there, I'm not sure you can see it, we have a nice steady flow of steam coming up out of the pot, and that's what we want. So to make the pressure, we've got to stop the steam. So 10 pounds of pressure, and we're going to drop our pressure regulator. Hear it? Let's drop it on there. In just a minute, this little top popper right here will pop up, which is going to tell us that it's beginning to make pressure in the pot. So the next step, which is going to take a little while, you boil the contents until that pressure regulator starts to rock. And then once it starts to rock, according to your timetable, green beans in a pint jar take 20 minutes. So we'll have to rock that top for 20 minutes once it starts to rock. It takes a good 10 or 15 minutes to get it to start rocking. When you buy your pressure canner, there'll be a book in there that tells you how to assemble, how to use, how to maintain, and all the directions you need for what size jars need how many minutes at what kind of pounds and things like that. So we'll be back in a little bit with the next step when we start rocking on. Okay, so notice our rocking little top there. So according to our measurements, we need to rock that. This thing is up, which means there's pressure in the can. That thing is rocking, means the pressure is moving around there. With our 10 pounds, we've been maintaining 10 pounds of pressure for 20 minutes. All right, so now we've cut off the heat. You have to let this cool by itself. So you take it off the heat, the handles are not hot, and let it cool all by itself. Once that's cool, you take the top off, open your lid, lift your jars out, and set them out to cool. Never, ever, ever set a scalding hot glass jar on your cold countertop. So we've got set up over here a padded towel to put our jars on so they can cool. If you put your hot jar or your hot foods on that cold countertop, be ready for an explosion and unedible food. It'll be full of glass. So as soon as that cools down, we'll take the top off. We'll put our jars over there to cool. And once they cool, you take your bands off and you're ready for storage. Write a date on your lid so that you know when you did it, and always use your oldest foods first. Okay, so now we've had it sitting cooling for a little while, and notice our pressure indicator is now down, which means that the pressure has been released from our canister. We can take our regulator off, make sure that we have no continuous steam running out of our hole, which means it is safe to open the canner. So we'll bring it back where we can reach it. On our lid, turn it this way to close it, turn it that way to open it. So we're going to spin it that way, ever so slightly.
And hope it don't go boom.
Exactly. If it's hard to push, don't force it. It means there's still pressure in there. It's not really hard to push. Oh, that cool air just felt good. Oh. Okay, so now we're free. When you lift your lid, lift lid towards you so that steam goes away. See our steam?
Ooh.
Now, in our jars, you'll notice that our jars are boiling. There's bubbles in our jars. That's normal because
One's boiling over.
one's boiling over.
Yep.
Where?
This one was. I synced it. It's on video.
You seen it?
Yep.
Okay, so now gently we're going to pick up our jars and go put them on our towels, and we want to hear them make a vacuum. When the jar makes its vacuum, you will hear the lid pop. So we'll put them over there on there. Remember, these are 240 something degrees in here. Don't even try to pick it up with your hands. Use your tongs, be gentle, and place them on your padded countertop.
So what happens if they don't pop?
If they don't pop within just a couple minutes, then you can do one of two things. You can either reprocess them and see if they will pop. If they don't, then you put them in the refrigerator and eat them within the next 2 to 3 days. Disregard that ringing.
The phone's ringing, Mommy.
Mommy's phone is ringing. Who is it?
No. I ignored them.
Okay.
We're making a video.
That's right, we're making our video. Because we want to hear the popping, which should start in just a... Did you just smile into the camera?
Yeah.
As the jars begin to cool down, the contents will make its own pressure within the jar, and it will suck that lid down. I don't know if you can see, the top of the jar actually has a little button right about there that's sticking up. When the jar makes its own pressure, it'll pull that down, and you can hear them pop down there, and that tells you that the jar is sealed. And that should occur in just a minute or two. You can see our jars are pretty well full. Our fluid and contents come all the way to the top. We've got fluid down in the bottoms of our jars. Those look like some pretty good jars. Bub said one was boiling over. We probably had a little bit too much fluid in whichever one that was,
The second one you grabbed.
which would have been that one. All right, little guys, start popping.
Hey, pop.
I like it when they pop.
How long does it normally take for them to pop?
Usually takes just a minute or two for them to start popping once they're out of that boiler there. See the little lines on the lid over here? There's some lines right there. It's the perfect place for you to write the date. Just use a pointed Sharpie marker to write your dates on your lids so you know what's been processed when. Eat your oldest food first. We're waiting for them to pop.
Oh, scary. Sorry.
Hey, takes a couple minutes though, doesn't it? You can probably pause the film and wait for them to pop.
But they'll pop when I'm paused.
Probably.
One will go and you'll be able to get it done real quick. So you're not just sitting here wasting time. But you probably have to stand here.
You can edit it if you have.
Yeah, he can always edit time out.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to edit all y'all's voices out.
No way.
Grace wants to join.
Grace wants to check it out. Check it out, Grace. We have green beans.
Wait, what's happening?
They're boiling in a jar. Are you hungry?
250 degrees.
Why?
It's like 248, so I like to round up. Because at that temperature it kills all bacteria and microorganisms. So basically they're sterile. Color your eyes. Oh, there they go.
Did you hear it?
Did you hear it? One of them went down.
I think it was the one I told you was leaking.
It looked beautiful.
It's-
Back on.
This might be that one.
No, that one's up.
Yeah, that one's up. Yeah, it was. It was that one. Which means it made its vacuum, sucked its lid down.
And then we take the bands off and put them on the shelf, right?
After they're cooled down completely, you
Okay.
take the bands off and put your dates on them and put them on the shelf.
Okay.
I want another one to pop. Usually once they start, they fairly quickly behind each other.
Pop.
You know? We're supposed to be having green beans for Sunday dinner, so if they don't pop, this is what we're having for Sunday.
I like it.
Which they should pop. There's no reason they shouldn't.
They want another one.
That was that one. Can you see the difference in the lid? There they go.
There's another one.
That's this
There's
one.
This one.
Yep.
See the bubble on that one? No bubble on that one?
It's actually sunk in a little bit.
Yep.
That's 3 out of 6 so far. So I recommend leaving them set like overnight before you. There you go.
There's another one.
That leaves us this one and this one, I think.
Yep.
You see the boiling inside the jar has started to slow down a little bit. So when you get ready to open these, if there's any big discolorations or foul smells or anything like that, check your food before you eat it. If something stinks, don't eat it. If it's funny colored or if you see any kind of mold, do not eat them. Now there may be some little black things up inside your lid when you open that up. That's just reactions to the salt, to the lid, and it's not mold. Mold is actually fuzzy looking, which is another reason you can only use your lids one time. This part you use one time, you throw it away. The bands you can reuse every time.
All right, y'all get the idea. That's Canning with Grammy. Y'all do me a favor, like it, subscribe it, share it with your friends, and if you want to see more with Grammy, let us know.
Good night, y'all. God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.